The village of Ashenmoor had not seen rain in 3 years. The earth cracked like broken pottery, and the wells ran dry as bone. Children no longer remembered the sound of raindrops on rooftops. Old Mira sat outside her cottage, watching dust devils dance across the barren fields where wheat once grew tall and golden. Into this desperate place walked a stranger wearing a cloak of storm-gray silk. His eyes were the color of thunderclouds, and when he smiled, lightning seemed to flicker behind his teeth. He carried no bags, no water skin, only a small glass vial that hung from a silver chain around his neck. "I am Corvus," he announced in the village square. "I am a rainmaker, and I can end your drought." The villagers gathered around him, hope and suspicion mingling in their weathered faces. Mayor Thorn pushed through the crowd, his lips cracked and bleeding from the endless dry wind. "What price do you ask?" Thorn demanded. Corvus's smile widened. "Only tears. 1 tear from every person in Ashenmoor freely given, placed in this vial. Then the rains will come." One by one, the villagers approached Corvus. Young Elsa was first, thinking of her baby brother who had died of thirst the previous summer. A single tear rolled down her cheek, and Corvus caught it in his vial with impossible precision. The droplet glowed faintly blue as it joined the collection. Thomas the blacksmith came next, remembering the day he had to kill his horse for lack of water. His tears were tinged with anger and loss. The baker's widow, the shepherd's son, the innkeeper with empty rooms, each contributed their tears of sorrow to the vial. Old Mira approached slowly, leaning on her walking stick. "This feels wrong," she whispered to Corvus. "Tears are sacred things. They carry our pain, our memories, our humanity." "Exactly," Corvus replied, his voice smooth as silk. "And such powerful things can summon powerful magic. Would you deny your neighbors the rain they need?" Mira's weathered hand trembled as she thought of the children with hollow cheeks. Against her better judgment, she let 1 tear fall into the vial, which now glowed brighter. By sunset, Corvus had collected tears from every villager in Ashenmoor. That night, Corvus climbed to the highest hill outside Ashenmoor. The entire village followed, desperate and curious. The moon hung heavy and full in the cloudless sky, indifferent to the drama unfolding below. Corvus held the vial high above his head. The collected tears swirled inside, creating patterns like storm systems viewed from above. He began to chant in a language none of them recognized, ancient words that seemed to pull at the fabric of the air itself. The vial grew brighter and brighter until the villagers had to shield their eyes. The wind began to stir for the first time in months, cool and promising. The stars seemed to pulse in rhythm with Corvus's chanting. Then, with a sharp twist of his wrist, Corvus uncorked the vial and flung the tears toward the heavens. The liquid streamed upward like a reverse waterfall, defying gravity, spiraling into the night sky. Where the tears touched the atmosphere, they spread like ink in water, forming clouds. Within minutes, the entire sky was covered. The crowd gasped as the first drops of rain began to fall. The rain fell soft at first, then harder, then in sheets. The villagers of Ashenmoor stood with arms outstretched, faces tilted toward the sky, weeping tears of joy that mixed with the downpour. Children danced and splashed in forming puddles. Farmers knelt in the mud, pressing their foreheads to the ground in gratitude. The rain continued all night and into the next day. The wells began to fill. Streams that had been dry beds of stone now rushed with clear water. The scent of wet earth, petrichor, old Mira called it, filled the air like a benediction. But Corvus did not celebrate with them. He stood apart, watching the rain with an expression that might have been satisfaction or might have been hunger. The empty vial still hung around his neck, no longer glowing. "Thank you," Mayor Thorn said, approaching with a heavy purse of what little gold the village had left. "You've saved us." Corvus took the gold, but didn't look at it. His eyes were fixed on the sky. "The rain will continue for exactly 7 days," he said. "Make the most of it." 7 days? Won't it return naturally after this? Corvus smiled his lightning flicker smile. "That depends." On the 3rd day of rain, old Mira had a dream. In it, she saw Corvus standing in a vast chamber made entirely of glass. Thousands upon thousands of vials lined the walls, each filled with glowing tears. And in each vial she could see faces, people crying, but their tears never fell. They were trapped in the moment of sorrow, unable to release their pain. She woke with a gasp and immediately sought out Elsa, the young woman who had given her tear first. "Have you cried since the rain came?" Mira asked. Elsa's brow furrowed. "What a strange question. No, I suppose I haven't. But I've been too happy to cry." Mira went to the blacksmith, the baker's widow, the shepherd's son. None of them had cried. More troubling, none of them could remember wanting to cry. When the widow spoke of her dead husband, her voice was hollow. The blacksmith mentioned his horse without emotion. "Something's wrong," Mira told her cat Smoke, as rain drummed on her roof. "He didn't just take our tears. He took away our ability to make more." She found Corvus at the inn, drinking wine and watching the rain through the window. "What have you done to us?" she demanded. Corvus set down his wine glass and turned to face Mira. In the lamplight, his eyes seemed darker, more hollow than before. "I've done exactly what I promised. I brought you rain. By stealing part of our souls," Mira spat. "Those tears weren't just water. They were our grief, our capacity to feel loss and pain." "And isn't that a gift?" Corvus asked softly. "You no longer suffer. The widow doesn't mourn. The blacksmith doesn't grieve. I've freed you from pain." "No," Mira said, her voice shaking. "You've made us less than human. Tears aren't weakness. They're proof that we've loved, that we've lived, that things matter to us. Without the ability to cry, how will we know what's worth saving?" Corvus stood, towering over her. "I am a collector of emotions. For centuries, I've traveled from place to place, offering miracles in exchange for feelings. I have vials of laughter that never reached lips, screams that died in throats, love that was never spoken. Tears are simply the most powerful. They can become rain, rivers, oceans. Your village will thrive." "As empty shells," Mira whispered. "Better empty than dead from drought." Over the following days, Mira's fears proved true. The rain continued, the crops began to grow, but the village felt wrong. Children played without squealing in delight. Couples embraced without joy in their eyes. When old Henrik's dog died, beloved companion for 15 years, he simply shrugged and buried it without ceremony. The change was subtle but pervasive. Arguments no longer ended in tears of frustration or reconciliation. Weddings were celebrated with empty smiles. The baker made bread but didn't sing while kneading dough as she once had. The blacksmith hammered metal with mechanical precision, creating no sparks of passion in his work. Elsa came to Mira's cottage, her face troubled. "Something's wrong with my baby," she said flatly. She fell and scraped her knee. She opened her mouth to cry, but no tears came, just a dry, hollow sound. It frightened me, but I can't seem to feel the fear properly. Mira took the young woman's hands. "We need to get our tears back, all of us, before we forget what it means to be human entirely." "How?" "He's leaving tomorrow when the 7 days end. The rain will stop, and he'll take our tears with him. Then we find where he keeps them," Mira said, "and we steal them back." Mira gathered those she trusted most: Elsa, Thomas the blacksmith, and young Marcus, the innkeeper's son, who was clever beyond his years. In her cottage, by candlelight, they plotted. "He stays in the room above the inn," Marcus said. "I've watched him. He never sleeps, just sits by the window, staring at the rain he made from our tears. And he has a leather satchel he never lets out of his sight. That's where he keeps his collection," Mira said. "All the vials of emotions he's stolen over the centuries. Our tears are in there." Thomas flexed his massive hands. "I could break down his door, take a bag by force." "No," Mira said quickly. "He's not human, not really. I don't know what he'd do if threatened directly. We need to be clever." She looked at Marcus. "Can you get into his room?" The young man grinned, an expression that didn't quite reach his stolen eyes. "I know every creaking board in that inn. I can move like smoke." They planned through the night. The rain continued its steady drumming, counting down the hours until Corvus would leave with their humanity bottled and stored. On the 6th night, when the rain had become as familiar as breathing, Marcus made his move. He crept up the stairs of the inn, avoiding the 3rd step that always groaned. Sliding past the seventh that creaked. His heart should have been pounding, but he felt only a dull sense of purpose where fear should have lived. Corvus's door was not locked. Arrogance or invitation? Marcus couldn't tell. He eased it open inch by inch. Inside, the Rainmaker sat motionless by the window, his back to the room. The leather satchel sat on the bed, seeming to pulse with inner light. Marcus moved like a shadow, like smoke, like a ghost in his own life. His fingers closed around the satchel strap. It was heavier than he expected, as if it carried the weight of 1,000 sorrows. "Do you really think," Corvus said without turning, "that I wouldn't know you were there?" Marcus froze, but his hand didn't release the bag. "I think you knew I'd come. I think you wanted me to." Corvus turned slowly. His smile was sad. "Perhaps. Tell me, boy, if you get your tears back, will the pain be worth it?" "Always," Marcus said and ran. Marcus burst from the inn into the rain. The satchel clutched against his chest. Behind him, the door exploded outward in splinters. Corvus emerged, no longer bothering with human pretense. His form seemed to flicker between solid and smoke, his eyes burning with stormlight. "Thief." The Rainmaker's voice boomed like thunder. The rain intensified, becoming sharp as needles. "You steal from a thief? How deliciously human." Marcus ran through Ashenmoor's muddy streets, his lungs burning. He could hear Corvus behind him, could feel the temperature dropping as the Rainmaker's anger turned the warm rain to sleet. Lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating his path in stark flashes. He made it to Mira's cottage and burst through the door. Elsa, Thomas, and Mira were waiting. Together, they barred the entrance with whatever furniture they could move. The storm outside intensified. The wind howled. The rain became hail, battering the roof like stones. Corvus's voice carried over the chaos. "Give back what's mine and I'll leave peacefully. Keep it and I'll tear this village apart." Mira took the satchel from Marcus's, shaking hands, and opened it. Inside were hundreds of vials, each labeled with a village name and date. Some were centuries old. "We have to give them all back," she said. "Not just ours. Everyone's." By candlelight, Mira examined the vials. Each one contained tears of different colors. Some were clear, others tinged with red anger or black despair, blue sadness or golden joy tears shed in happiness. Every vial was labeled in spidery handwriting. Millbrook, 1823. Ravensford, 1645. Thornhaven, 1902. "Centuries," Thomas breathed. "He's been doing this for centuries." Elsa picked up the newest vial, labeled Ashenmoor, 1887. Through the glass, she could see her own face frozen in the moment of giving up her tears, and see the memory of her baby brother trapped inside. "I can see my grief there. I want it back. I need it back." "If we break these, what happens?" Marcus asked. "I don't know," Mira admitted. "Maybe the emotions return to their owners. Maybe they're released into the world. Maybe nothing at all." Outside, Corvus's voice cut through the storm. "Listen to me, mortals. Those tears power more than rain. They hold back floods in distant lands. They water crops across continents. They fill wells in deserts. You think I'm a monster? I'm a force of nature. Destroy those vials, and you'll cause droughts and floods that will kill thousands." Mira's hand trembled. Could it be true? Would saving Ashenmoor condemn others to die? "He's lying," Elsa said quietly. "My baby could cry. That matters more than rain." Mira stood and walked to the window, looking out at the storm that Corvus had become. He was magnificent and terrible, a creature of pure weather, shaped vaguely like a man but composed of wind and rain and lightning. "You said you collect emotions," she called out. "But emotions aren't meant to be collected. They're meant to be felt, released, transformed. You've turned yourself into a dam, holding back the natural flow of human experience." "I provide," Corvus roared. "Without me, villages would perish, crops would fail, children would die of thirst. Then teach us." Mira shouted back. "Teach us the magic you've learned. Show us how to call the rain without giving up pieces of our souls. You don't have to be a thief, you could be a teacher." The storm paused. For a moment, the rain lessened. Corvus's flickering form solidified slightly, becoming more human. A teacher? His voice was different, younger, confused, as if he were remembering something long forgotten. Once, he said softly, I was human. I cried so much that I learned to give my tears to the sky. But the more I gave, the less I could feel. So I took from others to remember what it was like. To hold feelings I could no longer have myself. Then you know, Mira said gently. You know what you're stealing. The storm diminished as Corvus spoke, his voice carrying a weight of centuries. I was a boy in a village much like this one. We suffered from drought, and I discovered by accident that my tears could bring rain. I gave and gave until I couldn't cry anymore. My mother died and I felt nothing. My friends left me and I didn't care. I had become empty. His form flickered between man and storm. So I learned to take tears from others, thinking I could fill the void. But stolen emotions never quite fit right. They bring rain, yes, but they never made me whole. Elsa stepped forward, still holding the vial with her tears. If we return these to their owners, can you still survive? Or will you disappear? I don't know, Corvus admitted. These vials are all I am now. Without them, I might simply cease. Or, Mira said carefully, you might become human again. A long silence followed, filled only by the soft patter of rain, gentler now, almost natural. Corvus descended from his storm form, becoming a man again, though translucent and flickering like a candle flame. I'm afraid, he whispered. To be human again is to hurt again, to lose, to grieve, to break. I've been numb for so long. Mira placed the satchel on her table. We're going to break every vial, she announced. All of them. Not as a curse to you, Corvus, but as a gift. These emotions have been trapped too long. They need to return. Wait, Thomas said. What if he's right? What if breaking them causes disasters? Then we'll face those disasters together, Mira said, with our full hearts and our full humanity. That's what being alive means, dealing with consequences, feeling everything, helping each other through. We can't live half alive, sheltered from both pain and joy. She took the first vial, labeled Thornhaven 1902, and dropped it. The glass shattered, and a golden mist rose up. In the mist, Mira could see smiling faces, could hear laughter that had been locked away for over a century. The mist swirled once, then shot out through the walls, heading somewhere far away. Corvus gasped, clutching his chest. I can feel it. The connection is breaking. It's like losing a part of myself. Or finding yourself, Elsa said gently. She took the next vial and broke it. More mist. This one blue, with sadness, spiraled up and away. One by one, they shattered the vials. Corvus fell to his knees, becoming more solid, more real, more human with each breaking. Vial after vial shattered. Emotions that had been stolen over centuries erupted into the world. The cottage filled with color. Mists of every hue swirling and dancing before shooting out into the night, returning to their rightful owners or their descendants, or simply joining the great flow of human experience that Corvus had interrupted. With each breaking, Corvus changed. His storm-gray cloak became ordinary wool. His lightning eyes became simply brown. His ageless face gained lines, wrinkles, the marks of a life truly lived. And tears, finally, after centuries, tears rolled down his cheeks. I can feel again, he sobbed. It hurts. Everything hurts so much. I know, Mira said, kneeling beside him. That means you're alive. Finally, only one vial remained. Ashenmoor's tears. Elsa held it carefully. Are you ready? She asked the village that had gathered outside the cottage, drawn by the lights and magic. They nodded, even though they couldn't remember what crying felt like, couldn't remember what they were missing. Elsa raised the vial high and smashed it on the ground. The blue mist exploded outward, touching every person who had given a tear. And suddenly they remembered. They remembered loss and love and grief and joy. The widow collapsed, sobbing for her husband. The blacksmith wept for his horse. And they knew it was right. They were whole again. As the last of the stolen tears found their way home, the rain stopped. The clouds parted, and stars appeared for the first time in 7 days. The villagers of Ashenmoor stood in their muddy streets, crying and laughing, embracing each other, feeling everything with overwhelming intensity. But without Corvus's magic, the drought would return. Everyone knew it. The brief rain had helped, but it wasn't enough to sustain them through the coming months. "We'll manage," Mayor Thorne said, wiping tears from his weathered face. "We always do. It's better to suffer together with our full hearts than to thrive as empty shells." Corvus stood among them, fully human now, looking lost and small without his power. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice breaking, "for all the villages, all the years, all the pain I extended by stealing what should have been released. I don't expect forgiveness." Old Mira approached him. "Maybe not forgiveness," she said. "Not yet. But you said you once learned to give your tears to the sky. Perhaps we can learn too." Corvus looked up at her, hope flickering in his ordinary brown eyes. "You would trust me to teach you? After everything?" "You're human again," she said. "Humans can change. Humans can help each other. Will you stay in Ashenmoor and show us what you know?" He nodded, crying again, this time from gratitude. Over the following weeks, Corvus taught the villagers what he had learned centuries ago. Magic, he explained, wasn't about stealing or hoarding. It was about connection, about understanding the link between human emotion and the natural world. "Tears are water," he told them in the village square. "But they're also intention, feeling love. When you cry with your whole heart, when you release your emotions truly and freely, they don't disappear. They join the world. They become part of the cycle." Elsa was his best student. Still grieving her baby brother, she had tears to give. Corvus taught her to cry not in desperation, but in offering. "Think of it as a gift to the earth," he said. "Your sadness feeding the soil, your love becoming rain, your hope watering seeds." Slowly, Elsa learned to feel her tears transform as they fell, to sense them joining something larger than herself. And one evening, as she cried for her brother under the open sky, a small cloud formed above her, and gentle rain began to fall. The village celebrated, but Corvus reminded them, this isn't a solution. We can't cry enough to sustain crops indefinitely, but we can learn to work with weather, to sense when rain is coming, to prepare better, to call water when the world is ready to give it. They began studying clouds, winds, and seasons. With Corvus's guidance, they learned to read the sky. But despite their new knowledge, the drought returned with vengeance. The wells that had been filled by Corvus's 7-day storm began to run low again. The crops that had sprouted began to wither. The magic they were learning was real, but it was small. A gentle rain here, a brief shower there. Not enough. Tempers flared as the stress mounted. Some villagers blamed Corvus, saying they were worse off now than before, at least when they were empty. They didn't feel the pain of watching their children go thirsty. Others defended him, arguing that feeling pain was better than feeling nothing. Marcus came to Mira's cottage late one night. "People are talking about leaving," he said, "taking what little water we have and going to the coast, to the city, anywhere but here." Mira looked at Corvus, who sat by her fire, staring into the flames. He had gained weight since becoming human, his face filling out, but he looked tired and old. "This is my fault," he said quietly. "I should have taught villages this magic centuries ago instead of stealing from them. Maybe together they could have learned to truly control the weather." "Maybe," Mira said. "Or maybe there are some problems that can't be solved by magic alone." An idea sparked in her mind. "Corvus, you traveled for centuries. You visited hundreds of villages. Do you remember them? Could you find them again?" He looked up, understanding dawning. "You want me to tell them what I told you? To teach them all? To unite them?" "Yes. If one village can make small rains, what could 100 do together?" Corvus prepared to leave Ashenmoor. This time he carried no vials, no magic satchel. Just a simple pack with food, water, and a map that Mira had helped him draw, marking all the villages he could remember stealing from. "I'll start with the nearest," he said. "I'll tell them what happened to me, what I learned. I'll teach them the magic and ask them to teach others. It will take years, maybe decades. But if enough people learn to work with water instead of against it, maybe we can change things." Elsa gave him a water skin for his journey. Thomas gave him sturdy boots. Marcus gave him a knife for protection. Old Mira gave him something more precious, a small vial, empty. "When you learn to cry again as you once did, as an offering instead of an ending," she said, "fill this with your tears and send rain to Ashenmoor from wherever you are. So we'll know you're still out there, still trying." The morning he left, The entire village gathered to see him off. The boy who had been an ancient thief, the storm that had become a man, the collector who now sought to give everything back. "Thank you," he said simply, "for breaking me, for making me whole." As he walked away, Elsa felt something shift in the air. She looked up to see clouds gathering, not summoned by magic, but natural clouds, real weather finally returning to their drought-cursed land.